Hello, this is Dan Pro, and today I'm going to be doing a short tutorial, or maybe not so short tutorial, on some basic beginner tips on when you're starting rigging and starting to rig a mesh in Blender. So one of the forum members at cgcookie.com actually gave me permission to use his model. So this is his hero character here. And reminds me a lot of Space Ghost, so hope I'm not dating myself too much for that. But what I want to really talk about mainly in this tutorial is going to be mesh preparation, topology, weight painting, and also some bone placement and how all that works to deform our characters. So hopefully these beginner tips will help you on your project, and as well as the forum member whose character is on the screen here. So one of the first things I like to do is start checking out the mesh. And with this selected, let's look at we've actually got a mirrored mesh here. So it's basically one half of a mesh and subsurf levels. I'm looking at this, and that actually seems pretty high to me, that level of 4. If I look up at the faces up here, I'm at nearly 1.3 million faces. So if I bump this down to level 2, now I'm at 130,000 faces, 131,000 faces. So my viewport actually sped up quite a bit. Just because of that, and you can see if I'm bumping this up to a level of 4, it's not actually changing anything in the model, or it's not very visibly changing anything. So usually any subdivision surface levels over 2 are I think unneeded. Basically there's quite a few other different ways where we can get higher details in our models by using bump maps and things like that. So anything over 2 I think is just gonna slow our viewport down. So if we take a look at if I go to hit 1 on my numpad and I'm in front orthographic view, you can see that this character is centered right down X here, perfectly centered in the world, and you can see the Y value right there, and Z would be up, this blue line there. And if I look at the transform panel, if that's not open, that would be in the end panel here. What I usually check for right away is whether my values are 0 for location and 0 for rotation, and scale values of 1, 1, and 1 for scale. And that basically means all locations, rotations, and scale are applied, and its origin point for this mesh is exactly at the center of the world right here. So this mesh right here is fine. I'm gonna hide this, and you can see that there's multiple meshes here that make up this guy. We've got a helmet here. Once again, I'm gonna look at those location, rotation, and scale values, and those are fine. And you can see that if I grab this here, its origin point here is at the center of the world. Front orthographic view, it's perfectly centered in here, so I can skip to this one. And now if I select one of these eye meshes, what's this one called here, eyelid, I can see in my transform panel that there's location, rotation, and scale values, or unapplied rotation or location and scale values. So in order to fix that, what I want to do is just go Control A and apply the location, and you can see that zeroed them out. And then I can just come over here and click scale as well, since those were not 1, 1, 1. So now that I've got all that applied, I'm going to looking at this mirror modifier. You can see that these are kind of offset. I'm just going to click off empty mirror, and now it's going to use the origin point to mirror that across the x-axis, and that actually is more what we wanted here. So we've got that applied. I'm just going to hide that, and then I'm going to rinse and repeat for this eye here. You can see that I've got scale values. I'm going to Control A, apply the scale, and now I'm zeroed out, or 1 for scale. And I think I've got that empty mirror object here again, and I can just click off that, and now they're more symmetrical. So let's go to hide those and go to these teeth, And once again, I've got location and scale values. So Control A, location, and then just click on scale over here, and you can see that a little odd thing happened where these split. So in front orthographic view, I'm going to tab into edit mode of the mesh, and you can also change that the mode from object to edit mode here. I'm just going to select everything, select with A, and then do GX and bring these together so they clip, and then I can confirm that, and then GX, bring them back out to the size that they were. And one other thing, well, I'll do this on the next mesh. You can see when I'm in edit mode, I can actually change the positions of all this stuff, and when I go back to object mode, the transforms are still zeroed out. So if you ever need to move anything in object mode, you'll want to reset the origin to 000 for location, rotation, and scale of 111, just by doing Control A and Control A and applying those things. But if you ever make edit mode changes, you don't have to reapply that origin. So from here on out, I think it's always good not to ever touch the mesh in object mode. And I can see that there's like an odd coloration here. So the first thing I want to do is just apply the location and scale values here. So Control A once more, location, and I'll just click scale down here, and I get that same splitting. So I'm going to tab into edit mode of that mesh, and then GX till they connect there, and then GX, just drag them back out. Now I've fixed those teeth, but what's causing that discoloration is the flip normal. So if I select everything in edit mode, and then I go to the shading and UVs tab over here, I do recalculate normals, and you can see that that discoloration went away. And basically what a normal is, if I go down to mesh display here, I can click on this normals display button. This will be the face, and you get all them spiky things. I'm going to drag that down so they're not quite so wicked looking. And basically what these aqua colored lines are showing you is the direction of the face. So if I flip those, that's what that was causing that discoloration. The faces were actually facing into the gums instead of outward. So just recalculate those again, and now that mesh is fine, and we've got all our locations, rotations, and scales are applied. And I think I can just do Alt H to unhide everything again, and we're set. One of the things I like to do is actually select my meshes and lock all these transforms, so now I can't accidentally grab it, rotate it, or scale it, because really at this point, after we add an armature and apply that armature modifier and things like that, we never actually have to move this mesh. We're going to be moving the armature, and the armature will be doing that work for us. So just to keep things nice so we don't ever really mess things up again, I'll just quickly go through and just drag locks on all these, and just hide everything as I go to make sure I get all my pieces. And lock this, and lock this. And that should be all of them. Alright, so now we're ready to start thinking about our rig. And form member actually had started a rig here, and I hope I don't disappoint him too badly, but I'm not actually going to use his rig or build upon it too much. I'll probably hide that, but I will use it as a reference, because the things, like I said, the things I want to talk about are bone placement, topology, and weight painting. So let's talk about bone placement, since I've actually got a rig here that was supplied. And if I just select this rig, I actually went to, I'm just tabbing back and forth from front orthographic to right ortho and front ortho with 1 and 3. Let me tab into edit mode here, and whenever I'm working on a rig, I always want to have axis display on, because it's the most important thing in 3D is how these bones are positioned and how their axes are aligned. So if we look at this bone out front here, you can see that the y-axis is going up, x-axis is going this way, and z is going front and back. Now this is an odd thing about Blender, and one of the things that tend to trip me up to begin with. You can't ever really change the y-axis, but if you do Control R, you can change the direction of the x and z axis. So and also the other weird thing is this display is showing these axes at the tip of this bone, or what's called the tail. That'd be right here. If you can see, if I move that around, that's where the values are moving. The actual business end of the bone is the head of the bone, and that's always the fat end here in octahedral mode. If you look at these displays down here, there's many different bone display options we can have. I almost always stay in octahedral mode because I want to know where the fat end of that bone is, and I want to know where the head of the bone is, because that's the business end. If I just tab into pose mode here and start rotating this bone, you can see it's going to rotate from that head, and its location values, if I move it, are at the head. If I rotate this, you can see that it didn't move the location because of the tail, even though the tail was moving and rotating around. So this is the business end of the bone. So I always like to have axis display on so I can show that. And let me just fix one thing here quick. Since I have this display mode on, if I tab back and forth from edit mode to pose mode, you can see that these legs are shifting quite a bit. And the reason for that is, if I look at these axes, X is going this direction for the thigh, and it's going this direction for the shin. So if I look at the roll values here, it's actually got a slight roll on the shin. I'm just going to do 0 to, and then turn on options x-axis mirror, and then just do G and enter to make sure that this other side will automatically move and do whatever I do on this side. So I'm going to switch that roll to 0, and then I want to actually, this has a roll of negative 180. I just want to put that at 0, and then I'll flip these axes so they're aligned. Now when I'm tabbing back in and out of edit mode, there's no shifting. So that's what was causing that. It was actually a combination of the rolls of the bone, and usually what happens is sometimes this pull angle isn't set correctly, but in this case it was. It was actually the roll of the bones that was causing that flipping. But anyways, I don't want to get too far into that, because I want to start talking about bone placement. So let's talk about bone placement, just going off what I'm seeing right on this rig here. So one of the first things I notice, if I go to side view here, is there's quite a bit of a curve across the spine. So I always like to have, I'm just going to select the head of this bone, this hip bone here, and type GY and straighten this out. I'm going to type, grab the tail end and also GY, and get this hip bone so it's basically straight up and down, and about at the center from side view here. And front orthographic view, I definitely want this at center, and I can check that by looking at the X value of the head and the X value of the tail. So if I was off a little bit, I would see non-zero values. So if I just type 0, that'll straighten that back out. I think I just messed up the roll by moving that, so I'll just clear that out, and I can see that there's actually a weird X value here. Let's just type 0 there. You always want these centerline bones zeroed out on X, and that is what's happening here. So we've got from side view, we've got our hip bone centered a little bit better. Front view, I always like to have that hip bone all the way down to the base of the crotch. And since we're talking near the crotch area here, let's take a look at these legs. And I think this position right here is actually a little bit high. I always use some skeleton reference to help you out on figuring out where these points are. Basically, to make IK work really well, and my dogs stop barking here for a second. In order to make IK work really well, you really want to have a straight limb, but the rotation point for your leg is actually over here. So I'm going to show you quickly how to fix that. I'm going to actually select this lower tail piece of the shin and do Shift S, cursor to selected, and then I'm going to change my pivot point to 3D cursor and front orthographic view. I'm actually going to take the shin and the thigh and also this pull target, and then I'm just going to rotate it out in the Y axis and kind of cheat this to the outer sides of the hips here. So now we really don't want to have this pull target bone canted like that, so I'm just going to fix that by doing by taking this head of the bone, figuring out where that position, X position is, which is 1.49. I'm going to do Control C to copy it and go to the tail position and Control V to paste it, and now I've straightened out that bone from when I canted all these bones here. So let's go back to our spine area and finish tweaking this a little bit. I'm just going to select this bone right here. Since all these are selected, you only need to select one end or the other, and GY. I'm going to cheat this more of a straight up and down here. We want the spine and the chest bones to be a little bit towards the back end of our biped creatures or models or whatever you want to call it, characters, but we don't want it to be anatomically correct. We'd actually want it right on this very back. So, but it's kind of an imperfect science here. You just want it kind of cheated towards that back. You don't want it all the way back there. And that's just going to help with automatic weightings and things like that. So as we're moving up the spine here, I think this chest looks pretty good. Maybe I'll just move it forward just a hair, and also I'm going to take this neck piece here and move that more up and down. And if you ever look at anatomy, you know that the skull actually rotates back here. It's a little bit past the halfway point, so having this neck back just a little bit will help. And I also like to have this head bone more straight up and down, and also I like to extend it all the way to the edge of the mesh here that it needs to be weighted to. So it'll just help with weighting. We're actually gonna need to come in here and probably have to weight paint this front, but for now that's a little bit better positioning. Now let's talk about this collarbone. If I select the head of this bone right here and then go to side view, collarbone actually rotates. If you just touch your own neck here, you can feel it. It's towards the front of this chest here. So start at the front with the head and then move back towards where the arm attaches there. And top down view, I just hit 7 on my numpad. I can do GY and just kind of cheat that back a little bit more towards the center of where the arm's going to be here. So of course, whenever I want to record, my dogs like to bark and my neighbors like to mow their lawns. So please apologize for that, and also I apologize for the hugely loud clicking from my mouse. I couldn't get my other one working today, so alright, so let's talk about this arm position here. Back to front orthographic view. If I just go back to wireframe, actually what I want to do is select this mesh again and go back to the modifier and click on optimal display. Well, I'll show you what that does. If I hit Z on my numpad to go into or my keyboard in order to go to wireframe, if I hit optimal display, then I'm not seeing all the fake subsurf levels here, and it's far easier to navigate here. So let's go back to edit mode of this, and I'm going to go to wireframe. Basically this joint, we want it we can pick some center edge loops here and cheat it towards the top a little bit, so we get some of this delt muscle here, and that's going to allow us to rotate up and down, and we kind of want it centered right along there. So let me go back out of wireframe again, and it looks like from side view here, this elbow, I always like to have this elbow back towards this edge. Cheat it back towards the back end of the arm a little bit, and we'll just keep working our way down here. And this placement right here, this seems a little low to me as far as the wrist. The wrist would be about right there, so I'm just going to drag this up just a wee bit. And I looked at this earlier, and these fingers looked relatively good to me, but I wanted to talk about this thumb. If you look at your thumb, just about right here, just below where your wrist is, that's actually where your thumb starts rotating from. So if I just drag that thumb up here, that's actually going to be a little bit more anatomically correct here. And I'm just going to kind of move this around. I know these bones are, all these extra bones are kind of getting in the way here. I could hide them, but I just want to really talk about that rotation point for that, where that thumb is. And it's always just below the wrist. So I'm going to change this just a little bit. And while I'm here, I won't go through all these fingers, but the author of this rig and this character actually has all these bone rolls set really nicely for these fingers. And basically what you want to do is use the x-axis as a pin. At least I prefer the x-axis as a pin. You can use z-axis if you wish, but I'm going to use the x-axis as the pin, and that would mean that the z-axis needs to point in the direction that I want this thumb to rotate in. And this is oops, let me go back out of, change my pivot point back to individual origins, and then I'm just going to do Control R and roll that about that direction. And in order to, I always do this on the tip of the finger, and I can get all these other ones set for free after I do that by just selecting them. I'm going to select this one and shift select the next, and then shift select the one that I rolled last, and with Control N I'm going to recalculate all the bone rolls to the active bone. So I'll just select active bone, and those pop right into place. And if I just tab into edit mode here, do our XX for the local axis, all these bones are in alignment. Perfect. And you see that our mesh isn't actually attached to this rig yet, but so that's bone placement 101 there. Yeah, obviously there's quite a bit more I could probably talk about, but I just want to hide this rig here for a minute and just talk about topology and how that's going to affect our rigging. So if I go in here and take a look at this, for the most part I see edge loops around all of the joints, and that's correct, and that's what we need. But if I zoom in here, you can see that we've actually got quite a bit of densely packed edge loops here. If I just hold Alt down and then select one of these loops, there's quite a few of these here that are pretty densely packed. So what I want to do is I'm going to just kind of skip every other one here. I'm holding Shift and Alt, and I'm selecting all these loops together, and then I'm going to do X, dissolve edges. And you can see when I deleted those edges, I really didn't change the shape of this model very much at all. So this is really going to help by having a lot less dense mesh here. It's really going to help us with weight painting later on. So I'm just going to keep deleting some of these loops here, and now that knee looks a lot more reasonable. Basically what we want is wherever our joint is for our bone, and wherever those two bones connect, we want one edge loop basically centered right on that. And if I just get this one is actually pretty close, and actually I could probably change the position of this just a little bit. If I go to side view here, just drag this knee down just a hair, and then tab in edit mode. We want one centered right at that joint, and then we want 2 supporting loops on either side. And get rid of that meta rig, or that rig here quick, so we can keep concentrating on the mesh itself. So that's what we're looking for, a center loop and then 2 supporting loops on either side, and that's really going to help our deformation. So you can see that I've got a lot more even distribution of all of these vertices, and I can actually just keep going down here and just get rid of some of these. I think they're extraneous edge loops, really not needed for the model to look decent. One other thing I should have talked about here is on this subsurf modifier, this last toggle here, if I just hover over it, maybe it'll give me my tooltip. Adjust edit cage to modifier results. I actually don't like ever having this on, because it's basically giving me a false representation of what my model actually looks like. So if I turn that on, you can see that all of these we've got really nice smooth edge loops here, but this is actually the position that they're in, and that can actually hide. If I go up to this wrist here, I know that there was a couple odd things here. That can hide things like this, where this one vertex is actually pushed in. So if I turn that back on, it looks like it's fine, but it looks fine because of the subsurf. It's not actually fine in its base mode here. So, but I always like to have that off, just so I have a true representation of where the actual my vertices actually are, and then I can smooth everything out here and not rely on huge levels here to actually create that smoothing for me. I can do it by hand and do it on the lower poly version here and get the smoothing for real. So let me just take one of these edge loops since I'm right here. Dissolve that edge. Alright, let's go back to, since I was working at the knee here, I'm going to actually go the opposite way on these feet and add some edge loops by just doing Control R, and you can see the pink edge loop. If you scroll up on your scroll up and down with your mouse wheel, you can actually add multiple loops at a time. I'm just going to add 2 right here, and actually select one using Alt and Select. I'm going to do G so I can slide that edge loop, and I want a couple more down here to help support this ankle area here. So get these a little tighter down here, and now I've got a little bit better distribution. Oops, GG, and I've got a little bit better distribution on these legs here. So let's just keep moving our way up, and also we've got some pretty dense loops right here. So once again, I'm just using Alt to select the edge loop, Shift Alt to select the next one, and then X dissolve edges. And once again at this belt line here, I'm going to take some of these out, simplify this quite a bit, and also at the waist above the belt line here, dissolve some of those, simplify that quite a bit. And since we're working our way around here, I'm going to get rid of a few of these at the shoulder, dissolve my edges. Now that's going to be quite a lot easier. It's going to be a lot easier to weight paint that when that's not so dense. And also let me get rid of some of these right at the whoops, I'm going to select every other one. The reason I need to select every one, or the reason I am selecting every one, if I just select this as a loop and then do X, dissolve edges, I'll get a invalid boundary. So that's why I'm skipping every other one here. Do X, dissolve edges, and probably just get rid of a couple of these, a couple more. Alright, and we'll be able to get decent deformations with just these few loops here. And once again, because this toggle is off, I can see that there's a few things that need to be A few vertices that need to be changed to smooth this out a little bit. And when you have less vertices, you are going to have to spend a little bit more time smoothing everything out by hand, but the trade-off I think is far worth it. And I'm not going to spend too much time in here doing that, but that looks quite a bit better to me. Let me just slide this. No, I better leave that one there. So leave this one alone and add an edge loop there. Again, Control R, and if I undo that and do Control R, it'll allow you to place that wherever you want, or if you just confirm it with whether that be left click, it'll center it for you. So now I'm not going to go through all these fingers because I noticed that there's quite a few densely packed edge loops on these as well. Basically every joint is going to be the same. Wherever there's a finger joint, we're going to want 3 loops, but a lot of these could actually be dissolved and simplified quite a bit. And like some of these right here, probably we could simplify this hand quite a bit. So that's going to help us with our weight painting and our deformations. And in order to show that, I want to talk about one final thing here, and that's basically the base pose that we start our rigging in. And you can see that this guy has his hands basically right down to his side, and you'll see a lot of people actually have their characters posed with the arms straight out to the side, and that's called the T pose. And the pose that I like to start with is actually called an A pose, and the reason for that is it's basically the halfway point between your normal hands to side and your T pose. The reason I don't like to start my models with a T pose is basically this is the upper extreme of your arm rotation. Your arm actually will not rotate past that T pose position in order for it to go, but you're thinking, hey, you can put your arm up. What's happening is actually your shoulder is what's allowing that to lift. You need to lift your shoulder after that point. So just try it if you want. You can't lift your arm without lifting your shoulder after you get to that T pose position. So because that's the extreme, what I want to do is put it at the A pose position, because that is more the halfway point, and halfway point is going to help us with our deformations and with our weight painting. So in order to make this guy have that A pose, we actually need to skin him to our mesh. So I'm just going to actually show you how to do that quickly by selecting the mesh, and then shift select the armature and do Control P, set parent to armature deform with automatic weights. And now I should be able to pose this guy, and it's not going to look good because automatic weights almost never does. So I'm just showing this as a demonstration, so I can actually go in here and weight paint all this stuff and get a better deformation before I did this, but I won't take that time right now. I just want to show you after I would get the pose that I wanted. So let's just do to the other side there, not copy and paste that pose to the other side. How I do it was select this mesh, and you can see that it added an armature modifier for us. I always want our armature modifier below a mirror modifier if we're using it, and above our subsurf modifier, and that's basically just for efficiency. And I always like to have preserve volume checked, and also the edit cage buttons on for armature. Preserve volume is just basically going to give us some volume preservation for free. Now you can see that this looks actually pretty terrible right now, but it's not a big deal. We can actually fix this after we apply this modifier. In order to apply the modifier, you need it at the top of the stack though. So I was just using these buttons to put this above all these other modifiers so I can apply it, and I'll just click apply, and I get modifier cannot be applied with mesh to a mesh with shape keys, and I didn't realize there were shape keys on here. This is actually one of the things that I lost a lot of time in when I first started rigging. Is I always wanted to go in there and start making shape keys. That's actually the wrong order to do it, because basically all these shape keys are going to be lost here because we're on a mirror modded mesh, and at some point we're going to want to apply that mirror and have a full mesh. So in order for me to apply this armature modifier, I need to basically delete all these shape keys, and I can do that with this menu here, that black button. Just click that and delete all shapes. And now let's go back to modifiers here, and I can apply my armature. Now, like I said, we'd want to go in here. If I just turn on proportional editing, just kind of scroll up here, you want to go in here and fix this, and I'm not going to spend the time to do that right now, because I've actually done this on another file, and I've re-rigged this using Rigify, and I'm going to show you why. And just a second here, let me pull that file up, and here I've got my mesh that's been fixed. I fixed that ugly deformation here. I probably could have spent a little bit more time on it, but what I did was, after I applied that armature modifier, I added a new meta rig, and I placed all the bones, and I actually added a few more in here, and I'll talk about that in here in a second. And I generated a Rigify rig, and once again I just selected the mesh and then shift selected the armature and control P with automatic weights. So that's the point we're at right now. I've actually got this guy skinned to Rigify rig. Now, I don't want to discourage anybody who's new to rigging from not rigging their own characters, but especially if you're very new to Blender and you're learning modeling and texturing and rendering and all those things, sometimes the rigging portion can kind of send you over the edge. And Rigify is just a great tool where you're going to get a fully functioning working rig for free in just a few minutes, just by setting all these bone positions, and then clicking down here and generating a rig, and you basically get a fully functioning working rig for free in seconds. So one of the things that usually trips people out, let me actually go select the armature and go to armature panel, and I want to select this third to last layer here, because this is actually the money layer for Rigify, and you can't turn it on with any of these layer buttons here. If you're familiar with Rigify, you need to turn it on manually in the skeleton display options here, and these are all the deformation bones. One of the things that really throws most people is you can see that there's two upper arm bones now, and two forearm bones, and now two bones for the thigh and two bones for the shin, and that really confuses a lot of people, and the reason for that is, let me just get rid of that meta rig here and start turning on some of these controls. I've actually got everything set here in FK mode. I prefer FK whenever I'm working with weight painting, and you'll probably see why here in a minute. But I want to show you why people think that Rigify is broken and doesn't work. So let me just turn off these IK layers here, just so I don't have to. I can actually just turn off the fingers and the tweaks just to make it a little bit cleaner to look at. Alright, I'm going to select this hand, and I'm going to do RYY to start twisting it, and you can see that forearm just looks horrible when it's twisting, and you see this really odd, this two bone deformation thing. Your real skeleton doesn't look like that. So what's this for? Whenever you're relying on automatic weights, this is what you're going to get. because automatic weights aren't smart enough to know that this rig is actually built to make deformations really well, or make them work really well. But you have to know how to weight paint it, and that's why I rigged this with Rigify. I want to show you how to actually weight paint to get good deformations. So let's select the mesh, and with the deformation bones visible, we got deformation bones visible, and I've got all my FK stuff visible. That's all I need for weight painting. Let's just reselect that mesh, go to weight paint, and I should probably talk about some of these weight paint settings here, because you probably won't see this black it'll look more like this here. Let me just go to options here. Usually when you go to weight paint mode, you'll probably see this bunch of blue here, and then whatever bone you had, deformation bone you had selected, you'll see that lit up with the weights. Or it's possible that you would have like a control bone like this, and the whole thing would be pink. This is kind of a new feature. I'm not sure I really like that, the pink, but that's just telling us that this FK control, and you can look here what I have selected, upper arm FK.L, has no weights, and it shouldn't, because the only thing that's actually controlling the mesh are these deformation bones here. So when you have something like this selected, you might see that pink, but if we select an actual deformation bone, we should see the vertex weights on that. And I absolutely hate working like this. I think that blue is very hard to see. You can't see where the edge of our vertex groups are actually working on. So if I just switch this to active, now I've got blue on black, and now I can see how far those vertex groups are actually applying. And also, if I just type Z on my keyboard, I can see my topology of the mesh, and I find that that's far easier to work with while I'm waiting. So one other option here is I almost always have auto normalize on, and I kind of need to show you this. Let me just tab in edit mode here. I want to select one vertex, and you can see that this vertex has a weight of 0.5 for the shoulder. Let me just kind of get this out so you can read it. 0.1 for the pec, 0.2 for upper arm. Alright, now Blender actually allows you to put weights of anywhere from 0 to 1. So if I just bump up the weights all the way to 1 on all three of those vertex groups, now we look at it, you would think that this bone has a weight of 100, but there's actually, it has or 1.0, it actually has a weight of 1.0 on 3 different bones. And this is what auto normalize is going to do here. If I can actually do this from edit mode too. If I just hit normalize, that's the actual weight that Blender is using. It's going to take this and interpolate that, so it's going to do 0.33, 0.33, and 0.33, even though we've got 111. It's just going to do an interpolated average of all that. So that's why we always want to normalize our weights, so all of our values equal 1, and that way when we're looking at the colors while we're weight painting, they actually are true weight values, and they actually make sense. So you need to have everything normalized. Hopefully that's I didn't confuse everybody too bad for that, but trust me, just turn auto normalize on. Basically when I paint anything, it's going to add, since I'm adding to this bone right now, if there was some influence on here, it would just subtract it to equal 1. So let's get on to and show you how to weight paint this rigified dual deformation bone weird thing here. So if I just select this bone and do RYY and get this nasty ugly twist to it, I can show you how to weight paint that and why auto weights kind of stinks at it. Basically auto weighting is just kind of just stopped right at this bone, and in order to make it look good, what we need to do is add influence from this bone down this direction, and add influence from this lower bone up this bone, or up this to this direction. Let me just twist it. This lower bone is always the twist bone, so if I've got the FK arm selected, if I do RYY, you can see that that lower bone is the one that's rotating, and that's going to be our twist bone. So let me just weight paint this quick, and you can see how very easy this is to get good deformations with Rigify. So I'm actually going to need to twist it, RYY, to make it look ugly, and then we can make it look good by painting some influence down. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick one of these lines here, and I'm just going to start painting some influence to basically just straighten that out and make it look reasonable. But I'm not going to do it for everyone. I'm actually doing a few of these just to get them on my way. So oops, I'm actually got a weight point. I usually like 0.025 on my weight, and that looks a little bit better. I actually don't like that line. I'm gonna do this one up here and get it just a little bit better gentle curve down here. And now I'm going to use edit mode and select that weight. I'm going to hold Alt and get the whole loop, and then holding Shift I want to select the vertex to make it active. I'm going to do normalize, and then I'm just going to copy, and that copied all those weights all the way around there. If I look at our end results, and I must have had the wrong vertex selected. Let me back this up. Oh, I know what I'm doing. I didn't have my edit cage option in edit mode, so there we go. Which one did I want? This one right there. Alright, so select that whole loop, make this one active, normalize it, copy it across, and was this one? Yeah, I think it was this one. This one, make sure that's active, normalize, copy, and RYY. Oops. Much better deformation right off the bat. And we can actually take this one and let's twist this a little bit. RYY. Select this lower deformation bone and start painting some influence up that direction just to get it a little smoother. And up here, just a few little ticks up there. No, it's the hard part is selecting the right vertex. So again, normalize and rinse and repeat, and must have been this one here. So I think that's the right one. So making sure that's active, normalize, copy, there. And that is how you use this weird two bone deformation system here to get really nice twisting. Now it's not perfect yet. I should spend a little bit more time on it, but let me just do this forearm just for further demonstration. Just select all of these and clear everything out. So I'm going to select this hand bone, do RYY, and twist it to make that wrist look ugly. Then we're going to fix it with weight paint here in just a few seconds. I'm going to select this upper arm bone and start painting some weights to smooth out that weird deformation. I'm just going to add a few to lower here just to get it out of my way. Alright, so a few minutes basically. Okay, I'm going to rinse and repeat. I'm just going to select a vertex all the way down this line here, and then copy them all the way around the loop. Normalize, copy, and now this one. Where is it? Alright, right there. Oops. This one. Make that active. Normalize, copy, and this one. Nice and copy it. And there we go. Within a few minutes, and like I said, I can actually spend quite a bit more time here, but we get a pretty nice wrist deformation with this 2-bone system. Now, basically the reason I wanted to show you how to do this was, let's go back to object mode and back out of hitting Z on my numpad to get back out of wireframe, is like I said, when you're new to rigging and things like that, when you get a free rig like this, it's just far easier to do all of your experimenting here first, especially with your topology and your bone placement and things like that. If you ever mess anything up, as long as you don't delete your meta rig, you can go in here and change bone positions. Just delete your rig, change your bone rolls or bone positions or anything else you need to do in your meta rig, and generate as many rigs as you want until you get it right. And that's basically why I really want to push Rigify for beginners, is you get a rig that's going to work absolutely flawlessly. It needs to be weight painted correctly in order for you to get good deformations, and you also need good topology. But you're going to get a pretty much flawless rig right off the bat, and you can do all of your experimenting right from there. So basically, I have really ran over on my time, and I really didn't want to make a tutorial that was this long. But I hope those tips really help you, and especially with the weight painting. And now you know the top secret on how to create good deformations with this very weird 2-bone deformation system that Rigify uses. So good luck, and good luck on all your projects. See you later.